Brajajanarandana
Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabiyari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabiyari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. I always mess that one up. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Forgot the words to Maha Mantra.
What tune is it?
It'd be like that.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Because I'm singing really high. Jaya, and I'm going really low. But I can go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It would work. It's hard for me to drop that low.
How low can you go?
Was that this one where you were practicing the other day? Outside.
What?
Like the first one.
I made some like Kadashi
Oh, outside? No, no. That was after the class for me. After the class.
Down? Oh, after class? Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. I was playing, I was just messing around out there. I was trying to mess around with a different tuning to possibly make an offering for Guru Maharaj, Vyas Puja. Also, I guess now that I've been informed that I will be playing for George Harrison Day, me and my brother Matt.
The memorial concert?
Yeah.
That's coming?
Yeah, he's going to play with me. Him
What
and,
day?
I don't know yet. There's no dates yet, but we don't know. But sometime in November, but we'll be doing five or six songs.
Guru Das came before.
Yeah, we'll be doing My Sweet Lord, I Live for You, Art of Dying, In My Life, which is not George Harrison's John Lennon, but Give Me Love, and maybe we'll do another one too, depending on how much fun we're having. But I was like, Mother Janani kept asking me. She kept going, "What about this George Harrison Day?" I said, "Yeah, let's have it. Let's have it." Then I didn't realize she was asking me to be in charge.
I'm tired of being in charge too.
That's the mark of the great leader.
They know how to delegate.
My dear Arjuna Prabhu, just want to inform you that every drum is a manifestation of Lord Balaram and should not be used as a table. This is Lord Balaram himself. So, chapter 7, Sons of Drona Punished. You remember when we left off 2 weeks ago? Me and Janeshwar just read 10th canto last week.
In what way is every drum a manifestation of Lord Balaram, with everything is a manifestation of Lord Krishna?
Because the drums used directly in his service, in Krishna's service. And therefore it's under the internal potency.
What about drums that aren't used in Krishna's service?
They're also Krishna's energy.
But they're improper. Are they still manifestations of Lord Balaram, but they're just being improperly used?
And they're also Krishna's energy, but anything used in Krishna's service is patadiya, it's paraphernalia. You don't use any of Krishna's paraphernalia
Together
in a wrong way, in an improper way. As I'm using the harmonium as a table. I'm feeling somewhat punishing myself now. Now I gotta stop myself.
What was the verse?
We're trying to figure that out. It's been like 3 weeks since we've met.
it's
The nuclear.
chapter 1, verse.
No, we're not on chapter 1. We're on chapter 7.
Yeah, chapter 7, first canto, like about 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
The verse number. Why did I have it?
I think we're on, actually we're, there we go.
We get Arjuna's eyes like two red balls of copper.
Yes.
That was 33. Over his head.
Oh, you remember that from before?
Yeah.
Must not have been here.
I don't know, I've been reading a lot of Gita.
Or was the Brahmastra weapon?
Yeah.
And it was right around there that.
I think we're on 27.
727?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're going to go there. So now we're hearing how the Srimad Bhagavatam happened, how this conversation that we're going to get to in the second canto, how it happened. And so we've been hearing the history of Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning. We've been organizing the history of Bhagavatam. And now these questions were asked, how was Maharaj Parikshit and how did Sukadeva Goswami meet? And so now we're hearing the history of Maharaj Parikshit, beginning with this fight between Ashvatthama and the sons of the Pandavas. So, Om Ajnanatamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master is opening my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances unto him. Mareka Bando Mat Sangin Mad Guru Man Mahadana Mad Nistaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Mostate Sadhu Sadhu Tadayanatini Chochatakara Anamuncha Karachin Mam Premna Hritkate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devyam saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraet. Nastapureshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Okay, so there was this big chase that happened because after the killing of the five Pandava children, Krishna chased Ashvatthama, and Ashvatthama fled in fear. And so then the Brahmastra, he gave the Brahmastra in response. Thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions, seeing his own life in danger, Arjuna addressed Krishna, and Arjuna said this beautiful verse, Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tameko Dayamananam Apavargo Sisamshrite. O mighty armed Krishna, O mighty armed Krishna, you bestow fearlessness upon your devotees. You are the only one who can give liberation to those who are burning in the fire of material existence. That's a great verse to chant, to memorize when you're in trouble. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabaho. I say that sometimes.
Which text was that?
That's text number 22. And then Arjuna begins to glorify Krishna as the original person, the supreme controller, transcendental to material nature, master of spiritual energy that casts away Maya, always situated in eternal bliss and knowledge. He glorifies Krishna as merciful, beyond dharma, artha, kama, moksha. He talks about his descent, and he says, I don't understand the reason and source of this spreading dangerous effulgence. So what does he do when he's in danger? We take this kind of note here that a devotee always takes shelter of Krishna in danger. This is a symptom of a devotee, is that the devotee is always taking shelter of Krishna. He has no other recourse but to take shelter of Krishna. And I love that. In my life, I've found that time after time, whether it's danger, whether it's a challenge, whether it's just my own emotions, I find myself caught up in the modes of nature. And in that case, I don't try to solve my problems. I just say, Krishna, who else but you? No one else I can take shelter of but you. I'm totally immersed in material desires, and I have so much challenge, and I can't do a thing, but at least I can take shelter of you. And this is the yoga, because we're uncomfortable. Doing this Krishna consciousness is not always comfortable. To do your dharma isn't always comfortable. We all have a dharma. We're always changing our dharma if we're never steady in mind, and we never get that mercy of being able to face a responsibility. And so when you have that strong sense of dharma, I have a duty to do, and then in the course of my duty, I'm going to face so many challenges, but at least I'm taking shelter of Krishna, then that's very nice. So Arjuna is in that position now.
Is praying to Radha the same?
Praying to Radha is even better.
When I take shelter in her.
Why not take shelter in her?
That's the best.
Good question.
Got it.
I say Radha. If I'm ever going to die, always when I'm in like a car wreck or something, I always go Radha, Radha, Radha. It's my natural response. It seems like it's happened every single time I've been like almost in a car accident, or like whenever some really weird stuff is happening, I either yell Radhe, Radhe, or I say, Nitai Garanga. But it's always my desperation move. But we don't ask Radha for protection though. That's just who I want to call to, because I'm going to die. I think, let me go to Radha. She can take care of me. But, praying to Radha is good. You always pray to Radha for devotional service. You don't go to Radha asking a boon. We go to Radha to ask for Krishna. That's all Radha is going to bestow. She's there to bestow upon you Krishna Bhakti. But Krishna, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People can surrender unto him for all kinds of even material things. So it's a little different. But with Radha, we go to her simply for devotional service. And we do take shelter of Radha. In a sense, just as much as we take shelter of Krishna, because when we say Hare, we're always calling to Radha. Hare Krishna. And you'll find that in terms of executing devotional service, no one is more merciful than Radha. That's a fact, especially the Mayapur Radharani deity. That deity will do mystical things to you if you surrender to her. you pray to her. She has potencies that I can't even express.
Nothing material.
Nothing material. The most intense spiritual experience I ever had in my life was in front of that Radharani deity. Hands down.
This is where
In Mayapur. I had a dream about Radha Madhava the other night. It's really sweet. So we'll read 27. This is Krishna speaking now. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vetehidam Drona Putrasya Brahmam Astram Parashitam Naiva Suveda Samharam Prana Badha Upashtite. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, know from me that this is the act of the son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has hopelessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. The Brahmastra is similar to the modern nuclear weapon manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility, and so the Brahmastra also acts. It creates an intolerable heat similar to the atomic radiation. But the difference is that the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. It is a different science. And in the days gone by, such science was cultivated by in the land of Bharatvarsh. The subtle science of chanting hymns is also material, but is yet to be known to the modern scientists. Subtle material science is not spiritual, but it has a direct relationship with the spiritual method, which is still subtler. That's a very important point. Many people confuse subtle from spiritual. And a lot of the so-called gurus and so-called, spiritual people in the world today, they really play on this subtle energy because they can have a powerful effect by messing with your subtle energies. They'll give you some mantras to chant, and they'll change your subtle energy. You'll feel certain emotions. And so people also, they take shelter of psychedelic drugs and these types of things, and they say, I'm having a spiritual experience. But that's because they have no knowledge of what is actually spiritual and what is material. They're in ignorance. So real spiritual knowledge is something different. But Prabhupada says that the subtle mantras are similar in the sense that they use the same method in the terms of sound vibration, but subtle is not the same as spiritual.
So what's the purpose of utilizing subtle energy? What's the goal of it?
Well, there's so many goals because the subtle energy consists of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. We don't really, as terms of devotees, in terms of our direct and our practice that we teach, we don't really do anything on the subtle platform or the gross platform. We act on the spiritual platform.
Is it prasadam or subtle?
No, it's spiritual. Because it's being offered to the Supreme Lord, which gives it a spiritual quality. Subtle manipulation would be like, an instance would be like some type of magic or doing like a psychedelic drug. That's a great example because it really changes the consciousness, and people have these so-called spiritual experiences, but they're actually expanded states of subtle experiences. They're not spiritual.
There's the kind of austerities that Haranyakashi underwent. Is that a subtle?
Yes.
Okay, so he's doing for material benefit. He's doing these
All the way up to powers and these types of things, cities. This is all on the subtle platform. I'm not chanting Krishna's name, but if you chant the demigod's name, that's also in a sense subtle. Any type of city is subtle. Sometimes people think, oh, he can read minds, he can do miracles. This is all subtle manipulations. This is nothing spiritual. Just as someone can have these type of mystic powers doesn't make them bring you any
closer to God at all?
Not at all. Not in the slightest, not even a little bit. In fact, it most of the time brings you farther from God. And there are a lot of people who do have, and even devotees, I know a lot of devotees who factually have a lot of subtle abilities. They can understand people's minds. They have intense empathy. They can do a lot of things like that. And most of the time they don't even talk about it. But there are a lot of devotees who do have subtle energies and can read a lot of things. And
it would make you more effective at serving Krishna.
It can. That's the only benefit. That if you have some type of high empathy, you can give a good class because you understand the mood and the feel of a place. But most of the time, I've found, like in my own personal experience, like any type of subtle perceptions, they're a curse and a blessing most of the time, because The more you see, the more you know, the more you have to deal with in terms of yourself. And you have to, you may understand something, and people lie to you all the time, but they're lying. And it's a whole trip. So anyways, this stuff isn't very much impressive in the slightest. One should simply cultivate spiritual knowledge. And in that way, Krishna gives you all of the knowledge you need to know. That's a fact.
So what makes it spiritual? Just that it's bhakti, that's for Krishna? Or?
What makes something spiritual means that it doesn't have anything to do with earth, water, fire, wind, air, ether, mind, intelligence, or false ego. Krishna gives a process. He gives a hierarchy. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says the senses are superior to dull matter. We have working senses, and we have Gyanendriyas, which are knowledge-acquiring senses, and Karmendriyas, which are working senses. So we have the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the sense of touch. And then we have the working senses, which are the arms, the legs, the genitals, these types of working senses. And so all of those senses are superior to dull matter. But higher than the senses is the mind. The mind is in control of the senses. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. Higher than the intelligence is the ego, and yet higher than him is the soul. The soul. So we want to act on the spiritual platform. So acting on the spiritual platform, spiritual means when we're acting on the spiritual platform, which means we can be kind of on different platforms. We can think we're the senses. That's what most people are. That's like the animal state of consciousness. I am my senses. Therefore, I have to attack and acquire every sense object that comes in front of me. Totally out of control, you see. I am my senses. So if I see a beautiful lady, if I see a nice piece of food, whatever it is, I need to acquire that. And then there's the higher level is the mind. And then this is where most people who are a little more civilized, even devotees, they hover there. They make a concoction. This is going to make me happy because I'm going to get some sense enjoyment, and I'm going to get some emotional, satisfaction, ego, emotional satisfaction. We make this whole conception in our mind of how our life is going to be. This is a mental concoction. And so all of the things we think are going to make us happy in this world, all of the imagined circumstances are born of mental concoction. They're on the mental plane. And so people who work on that plane, very difficult to find any type of real happiness because the mind is very dissatisfied. He's never satisfied. That's one of the austerities of the mind, is to cultivate satisfaction. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. What's the intellectual platform mean? That means now I have knowledge. I understand what is matter and what is spirit. And therefore, with that intelligence, I'm going to choose a path which is favorable for spirit. And it's because we know things. The more we know things, the more we become detached from things. For instance, Balaram Das Prabhu gave this example that if I make you a cheesecake, but you find out that because of knowledge that I put salt instead of sugar in the cheesecake, now you don't want the cheesecake anymore. You become detached. So knowledge means that when I realize that this sense object is dukkha yoniya evate, it's the source of misery. And when I actually apply my intelligence, because I'm reading the Bhagavatam, I'm actually hearing, I'm actually chanting nicely, now I can, even though it's so enticing, now because of intelligence, I can deny it. This is the intellectual platform. Still, it's not spiritual because the spiritual platform is not a forced type of devotional service based on knowledge. Although we need this intellectual platform in the beginning, that's why it's called Buddhi Yoga sometimes. But higher than that is Bhakti Yoga, which is now I'm simply acting out of pure love for Krishna. And I'm accepting what is favorable for Krishna out of love for him. That's actual Bhakti Yoga. And so when one comes to that platform of spiritual knowledge where I'm acting out of pure love, then that is pure spiritual consciousness. And so that's something that happens when we chant Hare Krishna and you develop taste for chanting Hare Krishna, then that's from the spiritual platform, you see. And so the first 3 stages of bhakti, namely, 4 stages, namely faith, shraddha, sadhu sanga, bhajana kriya, and anartana vritti, those 4 stages, they're more or less very strugglesome, very difficult, because we're dealing with the intelligence and the mind. But once one comes to the stage of nishta, one is more or less on the spiritual platform. He's not necessarily on the level of prema bhakti, pure love. He's more or less on the spiritual platform, very steady. So this is what we're aspiring for. So in that way, if we're dealing on the mind, if we're dealing on these levels, then that's all essentially subtle. Like, people do Reiki, and they do all kinds of different things, tuning forks and all these things. They're subtle body healings, chakras. Like I totally understand chakras, and I've been studying chakras since I was 10 years old. And I find that the study of chakras has been some of the most helpful information in my life, practically. But it's not spiritual. But it is very powerful material knowledge of the subtle level. Make sense? Okay. It's important to understand. Because a lot of people get on this, they become very bewildered by subtle gurus. They do cool, oh, he read my mind. You're spiritual. This is so nonsense. Prabhupada can do all of that stuff, but Prabhupada never flaunted it. In the Shakti pot, they touch you in the head. Also subtle. Has nothing to do with, I was just hearing, they said, oh, because the sadhu, some kind of Mayavadi was speaking that the sadhu, because he's brahmachari for so many years, he builds up so much energy, and then when he touches you, he releases that pent up brahmachari energy, and then he becomes, you become enlivened by that, and then he becomes drained. How is this spiritual? Krishna's unlimited. We don't see this in the Bhagavatam. How does enlightenment happen in the Bhagavatam? By hearing and chanting. So they impress you. It's very impressive. And it's like occult. Like occult is also a type of subtle technology. That's what all this stuff we're referring to in the Brahmastra. And this is like occult technology. Very advanced occult technology. It's subtle technology that we don't understand today, but it is simply technology, not any type of spiritual thing. Astral projection is also subtle. You're projecting your subtle body, not spiritual.
Useful if you want to launch an atomic weapon at someone.
Right? The reason we don't have those powers is because the world would be gone if you can launch atomic weapons. If I could, and you can point them at people too.
Or just think about it.
Are we on 28 now, huh? Nahya syantyattamam kinchid ashtram pratyavakarsanam jahayashtra teja unadanam ashtragyo yashtra tejasa. O Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. Next verse. Nice verse here. Suduvacha shrutva bhagavata proktam palguna paravira spritsva pastam parikramya brahmam brahmastram sandade. Sri Sutta Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Lord Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one. I always think this verse is funny because I think here's an atomic weapon coming at me, but let me touch water. Let me, walk around Krishna real quick. That's the devotee for you, right? Let me do my seva. Like your dad's like that. I'm just gonna do my seva as long as it takes. I'm not gonna speed up for anybody or anything. Samhatya nyonyam ubayos tejasi sarasambrite avritya rodasi kamva vavritate davritarka vahanivat. When the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. So this is what we call a beam clash in anime.
They didn't include that in the Dragon Ball Z versus.
So it is. They're having a beam clash. You know what the firmament is? It means the sky.
Oh.
That's a word from the old Bible, old school Bible word.
But the firmament, if it includes the planets, how is it just the sky?
I'm going to get into the technicalities of a firmament.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Firmament actually means the. Okay, let's go next verse. We don't need to hear all about the Brahmastra.
I have a question about the beam clash.
Yeah.
Was it an equal beam clash? Well, because you know how later on it talks about how or earlier, I don't know what part it was, but when Arjuna circumambulated Krishna before he did his Brahmastra, and I don't know, I feel like the other dude didn't do that. So.
You have to take birth in those pastimes to see yourself. I don't know. I wasn't there. We'll see what this. I think it answers here essentially. We don't know. You know, it's kind of what the Bhagavatam says is all the information we have. There's some information. There's some more information. It was, all the pop. Here, right here. It says Dristvashtra Tejas tu Tayos Trilokan Pradadan Mahat Yamanana Prajasarva Samvartakam Amam Sata. All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvatarka fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. So it's definitely like an atomic weapon. Like a big atomic weapon in the sky. But because they were in control of it, Arjuna can control it. So this is very high level. You can say it's almost like, wizardry. But some people, they get very, they don't believe in this type of thing. This is all mythology, but it's a fact. And this is a fact that in that area of India, there are places where there's pretty much undeniable evidence of atomic weaponry use. There's people in mass droves holding hands that are just laying in the streets, and they're all irradiated, and the rock is melted into glass, and the whole area is filled with radiation. So they know that there was an atomic weapon there.
Wouldn't it be in the whole planet? Why would it just be there?
What?
Why would it just be there? Why wouldn't it be like?
There's all kinds of other places. There's all kinds of other places. But at that time also, the civilized people of the world basically congregated around Bharat.
Well, the other less civilized don't leave material evidence when they get blown up.
Well, they just weren't as advanced. Just like now, how many countries have atomic weapons? There's only a certain few. America, India, Britain, France, Pakistan, Iran, maybe. We're getting there. North Korea. So certain countries do. China. Most countries don't. And then even then, how many have the type of atomic weapons that Russia and the U.S. have? Russia and the U.S. with hydrogen bombs. I know way too much about atomic weaponry. It's a weird thing.
I have a question about this verse.
Okay.
So at the end where it says everyone was reminded, so the whole population of the three worlds, they were all reminded of the fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. Does that mean that they all have memory of previous annihilation?
No, they've been reading about it like us. They're also reading scripture. So let's go to 32, shall we? Prajopardravam alaksha lokavyatikaram chatam Matam cha Vasudevasya Sanjahar Arjuno Dvayam. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Krishna desired. Let's go a little purport. The theory that the modern atomic bomb's explosions can annihilate the world is a childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. This is a point that should be made, and it can be applied in all different levels. The idea that man thinks himself powerful enough to destroy the world is a falsity. And this is a type of false ego that we find prominent in all people, that we think we're the doer. This is the tendency of man, especially when he comes in contact with the material energy. And this is also goes into the points of like brahmacharya and things like that, because whenever man is attempting to enjoy prakriti, or woman for that matter, there's a sense that now I am some type of maintainer. This is like the trick of, so-called material existence, that I'm the maintainer of this wife, I'm the maintainer of this family. And of course we have to do our duty, but there's a consciousness that develops because of the elusive material energy that I'm some type of maintainer, when in reality, who's the maintainer? So you're trying to pretend to be Krishna. This is the point. This is the subtle envy that we find in the materialistic conditioning. And I'm very attractive to this person. And this is a type of, oh, this feels very good because I'm attractive. But you're not this body, first off. And look how much pleasure I'm giving this person. This is the whole material illusion, the way it works, and the way it corrupts the mind. And this is what Gurudev has explained to me for many years. So, therefore, we should follow in the footsteps of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and systematically realize that everything belongs to Krishna, even my body belongs to Krishna. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although he had so much paraphernalia, he was not an enjoyer. His only business was serving Krishna. So our first and foremost responsibility should be, let me just serve Krishna. We don't have to change anything. We don't have to adjust anything materially. You can just take where you're at right now and begin to serve Krishna wholeheartedly. But the problem is we want to make a material arrangement that's going to be this way or that way, rather than putting all of our energy into serving Krishna. You see?
Why does nobody worship Brahma again?
What?
Why does nobody worship Brahma like Krishna?
Millions of people worship Rama.
Brahma,
Right?
Oh, Brahma. I thought you said Rama. Oh, Brahma. He was cursed, actually. He was cursed. You know the story? Yeah, I've heard. He was cursed that people wouldn't worship him also.
Left Iran and he went to Arabia and became worshipped by the early Jewish people.
I don't know.
No.
What's the right story? It was in one of the boutique books. It was about like the stage leader or something because he offended her and they said he would not be worshipped.
I think you're getting confused with maybe Brigu cursed the Brahmanas, and he cursed Brigu was cursed by Lakshmi Devi.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I don't know. There's some story in the boutique.
Yeah, there's some story.
Actually, Prue worships Brahma, right? He does all those like posterior
Yeah, he did.
Like 6 months.
Yeah.
Longer than that.
just not temples and things.
Yeah, there are some temples of Brahma, but they're rare. Yeah, he's not worshipped generally. Anyway, we don't have any desire to worship Brahma because we worship Krishna.
I thought he's a devotee.
We can worship him, we can serve him in that way, but bhajan is reserved for Krishna. Bhajan is reserved for Krishna. Even you say you worship the Guru. We worship the Guru, yes, but who are we worshiping when we worship the Guru? Worshiping Krishna. We're not worshiping the blood and flesh of the Guru, were worshipping Krishna through the Guru. Why serve the Vaishnavas? Because it pleases Krishna. Yet Arjuna was killing Vaishnavas because it pleases Krishna. In that circumstance, he was killing Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is a Vaishnava. So we do whatever pleases Krishna. But Krishna, as a general rule, he wants us to worship the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, like you do so nicely.
So that guy, the Sith Lord launches the nuclear weapon, Arjuna counterattacks, and he goes, "Oh, take back! I'm gonna take both weapons."
Yeah.
Why didn't he just take it in the first place? Instead of launching a counterattack, take away the other attack.
I think-
launch one and then take away both.
I think his combined, and then he was able to retract both. That's how I've always seen it. I'm not familiar with the ways and means of shooting subtle nuclear weapons out of my hands, but maybe in some lifetime I will be.
Remember those, if you slap him on the wall, you can grab.
I'll make this point that they have these the Donner Veda. The Donner Veda has all these amazing fighting techniques in it. You know, there's how to shoot arrows, how to fight with clubs and swords. It's all these amazing techniques. And it's all real. And then as this Gada. And then at the end of it, there's a chapter on mantra weapons, but that part was a myth. So they have this amazing text of genuine martial arts. In the last chapter, they just put a myth in there for no reason. No, we're not qualified to chant these mantras in this time. People think, oh yes, like sometimes you hear people say, I'm a Kshatriya, or I have a Kshatriya mentality. It's like, dude, you don't have a Kshatriya mentality. You may have a little bit more Rajagun, and therefore you may act in the capacity of a Kshatriya to some degree. But a Kshatriya was purely in the mode of passion. You know, he had like 20 wives sometimes, you know, like that was the level, like, and like, you know, they would have so many children, and they would go and like, you know, like Arjuna was a Maharati. He was fighting on such a level like no one's ever seen before. And this is Kshatriyas. These are real people. But that race is not present. That level of passion, that level of energy is just not present because in the Kali Yuga Sudras, the Kshatriyas died off basically at Kurukshetra. And the Brahmanas, they don't have the power they used to have either.
What's the verse where in the purport Prabhupada explains, like, wasn't it all the Kshatriyas were like dispersed to different parts of the world?
Yeah.
That was after.
It's in the second canto. It's described in this canto also actually at different times. It's described after Parshuram. Yeah, the Greeks, the Turkish, they're all Kshatriya races, the Romans. They're all banished Kshatriya races. And actually the Zoroastrian religion and the Norse religion both have very deep connections to Vedic religion. In fact, the Norse religion, they're literally, the gods are called the Asurs. The gods of the Norse religion are called the Asurs, and they have the same philosophy as Kshatriyas, Vedic Kshatriyas. You have to die with your weapon in hand. In battle, it's glorious. You go to Valhalla. So it's very much a Kshatriya religion, but it's maniac because they're worshiping the Asurs rather than the Daityas. Thank you, Jamuna. Hare Krishna.
So did the
Give Jamuna a cookie
Peace?
since she's leaving.
Yeah. So the Kshatriyas knew how to use those mantras.
Yes. Ashwatthama wasn't trained. That's why he couldn't retreat. Like generally a Kshatriya is able to call back the weapon, but Ashwatthama was just throwing his, like, he wasn't trained all the way in the proper use of the Kshatriya, of the Brahmastra.
This is like kind of off topic, sorry, but like, so if the Kshatriyas had those powers, they could use those mantras. They were dispersed, and some of them ended up in Egypt. You know, like they could build the pyramids. There's a lot of like people talk about that the pyramids were built with.
Prabhupada was asked about the pyramids. You know,
What he said.
they said Prabhupada. They said Prabhupada, how did they build the pyramids? And Prabhupada Gurudev told me this past time. Prabhupada looked at them as if they were stupid, and he said, sound vibration. They changed the subject.
Because they were Satrias, and then you had to use those.
I can't say for sure that they were Kshatriyas, or they had subtle technology though. The pyramids are obviously, they're not tombs. You study into that. They're forms of subtle technology. Crystals are also a form of subtle technology. The way crystals are used, and these types of like your Sadhguru and his creating spaces. It's all subtle technology. It has nothing to do with spiritual. And they scoff at, like, they say, oh, this is just a sentimental temple. They scoff at things like that, but they don't understand that Krishna is everywhere. And we have the ability to perceive that because we're going beyond the subtle to the spiritual, to the genuine spiritual platform.
So what's the purpose of Kriya Yoga?
Kriya Yoga is get the subtle body ready for doing Bhakti Yoga. That's it. Class. That's all. All of the yoga system is simply getting the subtle body ready to do Bhakti. But the real yoga is Bhakti. There's really no other yoga but Bhakti. Yoga means Bhakti. Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmanaha shravam bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Krishna says this. Out of all yogis, he who worships me with great faith, always thinking of me within himself and always abiding in me, is the highest of all. That is my opinion. After he described the whole Ashtanga yoga system, he describes the Kriya yoga system. And he says, think of me. That's the real yoga. The genuine yoga. Devotional service. But I'll make this point that devotional service is so much to do with attitude, Like, you don't have the right attitude in your service, then it's very difficult to really be fired up. Today, Gaura Sundar Prabhu came into my room. He just gave me a heavy lecture. Really, he heavied me out. Not in a mean way, but in a very loving way about, pure devotional service. And he was just, because he's very passionate about Harinam, and he was saying, I'm so sick, but I'm still going on Harinam. He was making these points to me, and it was very moving. Felt very wow, So the attitude, right? We always, make that effort for Krishna. It's very important. We'll go to 33. It's very, very blissful. This chapter is very blissful. Arjuna, this is one of my favorite verses too. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger like two red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with ropes like an animal. This makes me think of Padmanayan. Padmanayan really he gets really dramatic when he tells pastimes. And he was giving class on this, my Bhakti Vaibhava. He goes, Ashwatthama was bound like an animal. Very, very into it. He's there. Ashwatthama's mother, Kripi, was born in the family of Gautama. The significant point of this shloka is that Ashwatthama was caught and bound with the ropes like an animal. According to Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch this son of a Brahmana like an animal as part of his duty. This is the suggestion by Sridhar Swami is also confirmed in the later statement of Sri Krishna. Ashwatthama was a bona fide son of Drona, Acharya, and Kripi, but because he degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal, not as a Brahmana. So it's important to make that it's not externals that determine our Varna and our ashram. You have to actually have the proper consciousness. Are you a Brahmana? By action? By cleanliness? By purity? Or are you just wearing a thread? Many people are like that. We have so many people that come. Prabhu, I am Brahmana. I am Vedic, I am Indian Brahmin. They say that all the time. We hear that all the time. I'm going to eat some chicken now. Very common. I was speaking to a guy in Albuquerque, and he was telling me that, and I said, do you eat meat? No. I said, you have a girlfriend? He said, no. I said, do you do drugs? No. Drink? No. You gamble? No. You might be a Brahmana. So chant Hare Krishna and you'll be a Brahmana. He was very attached to computer programming, though. That was his problem.
Have a name, okay?
Are you feeling the desire to return to the computer program world?
I don't know.
Okay. After binding Ashwatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Very important point in this verse. It's a special verse. I always remember this verse. Maybe someone, Nitai, can you read the purport?
Both Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna are described here in an angry mood, but Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendent, and thus he is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being in the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. Anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind toward the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances.
Important.
Being a mom.
Important to remember here that Krishna is never angry in the sense that a materialist is angry. A materialist feels anger due to lack of sense gratification or lack of subtle enjoyment. My ego is not being glorified, not being respected. This is material conditioning. A spiritualist, a pure devotee, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their anger is a righteous anger. And that is anger that is blessed. The Lord's eyes were not angry like Arjuna's. They were still lotuses, yet they were angry. And Lord Nrsingadev had lotus-like eyes that were angry. This is the Lord's transcendental nature. And so a pure devotee also can become angry about Krishna's service because someone's getting in the way of Krishna's service. But that anger is not the same type of anger. And in fact, we can't repress. Repressing is not the answer. Rather, we should feel angry in Krishna's service for necessary times, when it becomes necessary. In fact, it's an offense to not become angry if someone blasphemes the Lord or his devotees.
Guru Dave ever been angry with me?
Oh, yeah.
Have you all seen this?
I expect it.
But you see it coming.
I've never seen him angry with me, just like,
I've seen Gurudev very, very, very angry.
With lotus eyes.
I don't have any doubt. When that happens, I'm not looking at his eyes.
Your eyes.
I'm looking at the ground.
You're looking for an exit?
I just start praying to Krishna to help me.
Not Tarata though?
I thought he was Christian.
What's that?
I thought Guru Dave was Christian.
Yeah, but it's a different, it's pretty, I get like, yeah, that's a very, the guru and disciple have a special relationship. So when the anger is directed at the disciple, it's like a full channel of intense mercy, but it doesn't feel like mercy in that moment.
It's like the look. Oh, your moms know the look of it.
Yeah, I don't ever, Gurudev doesn't ever like, it's always like good. And then there's a point where it's like, I'm going to waste you. But every time Gurudev has gotten intensely angry with me, which is at least 6 or 7 times at this point, I've always made like rapid spiritual progress right afterward. There's one devotee in our Sangha who got like Gurudev so angry. I mean, I wasn't there for this, but like it was so horrendous. Like it was such an intense, this devotee was really struggling. And like he said something kind of offensive, and Guru Maharaj like cooked him so badly for so long. It was like everybody was like the whole People who saw it were like so disturbed. But that devotee, like overnight, totally changed and totally made it a whole 180. And like has remained totally changed since then. And it was like months and months of really negative, bad, struggling. And like Guru Maharaj just, like all other people that saw it were really disturbed. But the person who actually received it changed. He did a 180. And, that's because the spiritual master has that potency. But I don't think that, we can't imitate that. Many devotees attempt that, they try to imitate Prabhupada, They think that their anger is somehow like Prabhupada's anger or some pure devotee's anger, but they just run people off by the dozens. I've seen it too, Oh, I gotta defend my anger, They're running people off by the dozens. Prabhupada's anger was making people more attached to him. Mother Sandami is also like that when she gets angry. I get very happy when she's angry. I do. I love it. I get like, I don't like it in the moment, but like, I get a big smile on my face when she gets angry because I just, this is affection. There's so much affection. There's so much affection that I have, when she chastises me, it's like, just very affectionate, loving, sweet, motherly love she shows in that. Anyways, I've seen disciples get it pretty hard. And Guru Maharaj knows it too. I've seen him like dealing with other disciples where he's just like, I'm going to have to waste him. And he does. So we'll go to 35. We'll go to 30. We'll go to 39. No, we'll go to 35. Okay, 35, yeah. Lord Sri Krishna said, O Arjuna, you should not know the mercy. You should not show mercy by releasing the relative of the Brahmana, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Never mind, we'll go a little bit farther. I'm missing here. So this is an important part of the Bhagavatam here. In fact, we'll stop here because it's just this section is really important, 35 through 58. It's a very important section discussing morality and what is the proper thing to do in terms of punishing someone. So someone can read the purport here, and then we'll stop. And we'll discuss a little bit about what's going to happen.
The word Brahma Bandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana is not qualified to be called a Brahmana, but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana, just as the relative of a Brahmana and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only, one does not become a high court judge. So also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also is the post of a Brahmana. So also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that if good qualifications are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmana, or in better terms, a relative of a Brahmana. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences, and he is about to explain the reason for this in the following shloka.
So Krishna is going to, in the beginning, Krishna is going to support killing Ashwatthama. Krishna says kill him. And Bhima says kill him. But Draupadi, the wife and the mother of the children who were murdered, says no, leave him, let him live. And then Prabhupada brings up the point that the woman is very sentimental. She wants him to live because she doesn't want Kripi. She doesn't want Kripi to experience the same pain she's experiencing. And so there's a sense that she wants him to live, and Yudhisthira also wants him to live. So Arjuna is trying to decide what is the best thing to do. And so there's a moral debate that happens here. And both points are very valid. So we're going to get into that. What to do in that circumstance. What do you think?
I always felt like Krishna was like playing devil's advocate to like stimulate this conversation.
Well, Krishna changed sides in the middle of the argument.
Switches, and I just remember how shocked I was. Probably, of all the people I thought would like have the most enmity against him, it's his advocate for it. Krishna.
She's gone.
I always leaned on the side of Bhima myself. Because, of course, killing a killer is mercy. But it's also the duty to... Arjuna's in this position where he needs to please his older brother. Yudhisthira is the most senior. And Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he also needs to please his wife. So what to do?
And what they do is worse than death, I think.
In the end, yeah.
Like
Now Ashwatthama's out on First Avenue. Sometimes you'll see him once in a while. Floating around out there.
Why is Krishna mad? Because Arjuna was trying to be merciful?
Krishna's not mad. Krishna's mad. Krishna's anger, as described in the purport, is a manifestation of his protecting a devotee. Of his protection toward the devotee.
Doesn't he incarnate as like Vyasadeva or something? Like one of the next Yuga?
Yeah, when he doesn't incarnate, this Ashwatthama becomes the Vyasadeva, yeah. So we all have a chance. You can't say you're too fallen. Ashwatthama goes from being a child murderer to Vyasadeva. We can change.
Talk about zero to hero.
Yes.
That's the story to go back to God, right? It becomes sand, it becomes great demon.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
there's a cave, isn't there?
Yeah, Badrikashram, yeah. He's still there.
Do my homework.
Maybe you become a demon, it's not the same. You don't go to Goloka Vrindavan. Unless you're like Putana, but she's special.
What about Kamsa?
Kamsa went to Vaikuntha according to Prabhupada, but not Goloka Vrindavan.
What if you have a bunch of evil people in your family and you got some like family trauma that's been handed down to you? How do you get rid of all that stuff?
Ask me about it. I've been involved in that last few days. I had a cousin die. I had to go to a funeral. Oh, weird.
How do you release yourself from all these influences?
You do devotional service. That's really it.
It starts to cut the ties.
There's a verse in the Bhagavatam. As you know, when one engages in devotional service, all of their debts to the family, to the demigods, the forefathers, to the king and the queen, it's all released.
What are the four debts?
I have to look it up. No, I don't have it on memory, unfortunately. I'm not. I believe it's the demigods, the rishis, the ancestors, and the family.
The family.
Yeah.
Okay, so the family is separate than the ancestors. That's like the family here.
Yeah, mother and father. I think.
Because yeah, your debt to
But I'm not. I can't. Don't quote me on. Don't quote me on that. You'd have to look up.
would be disappointed.
So yeah. Well, we'll end here. We'll keep talking, but we'll have Arjuna distribute his prasadam. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. We've been eating.
I brought more too.